channel today. Did it work? Did it work? I don't know. Find out. Boy, this app is not as good as I was led to believe it was. Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica. And today we are going to start talking about the difference between a couple of different types of get-ups. I got a question from a judo friend, Frank, up in Michigan. And he wanted to know the difference between what I call a judo get-up and what I call a Krav get-up. A Krav get-up is when you get knocked down to the ground as if you'd been pushed. Think a deck squat. You put one hand on the ground, you do a straight line pass through. So whichever direction you are facing, your leg passes straight back, and then you stand up from there so your whole body is facing forward. It's a method of getting up off of the ground specific to violence, as if you'd been pushed and knocked down, and then you get up without turning your back or dropping your head. All of your weapons are pointed forward, all your hands and all your feet, so you can stand up in a front kick and move forward right straight away. A judo get up is a get up from a squat position. So judo, you get thrown all the time. Same side shoulder roll, you hit the ground, you put a hand on the ground, you sweep through to 2 feet flat on the ground, and you stand up so that you can do your next technique. Everybody calls these things different things from different parts of the world. I don't know if there's an official judo get up. I don't know who would make it official. Maybe the World Judo Federation or whatever that's called. But those are just the way that I think of them. So I think of those two things in those two ways. And those are what I consider to be the most important body weight get-ups. Because one is a defensive get-up and one is a get-up from getting thrown down to the ground, which can happen all the time. The get-ups are meant to get you up in certain ways. A Krav get-up gets up while moving you slightly back, moving your head back. Instead of hitting the ground and standing right up within range of some type of attack or whatever. But basically get-ups of all types are things that you should do because they're basic human movement skill. Getting up off of the ground is one of the first things you learn as a baby. As a baby, you're lying on your back. You learn to roll over to your side. You learn to push up into a quadruped position. Is that wind gonna bother this mic? I don't know. You push up into a quadruped position, and then people push back into a squat. Babies learn to stand up in a squat pattern, and then they start to step from there. But getting up, if you lose your ability to get up off of the ground, the classic 1980s commercial, help, I've fallen and I can't get up. Once you lose the ability to get up off of the ground quickly and easily, you're essentially accelerating the aging process massively. So by simply practicing a bunch of different versions of get-ups, you're pushing back what you might think of as aging. There are two different types of aging, right? You have like cellular aging inside your body, and you have that neurological aging or getting old in your brain and in your body. The one that we're talking about is the brain and the body one, losing your ability to handle complex movement patterns. Every time you lose a range of motion, you accelerate the aging process, you get more old. So all the stuff we focus on in the beginning of training for the majority of your life should be things like throwing pattern, because it makes your shoulders work, and that makes you stand up all the way. Clean and press. If you clean and press, you never get that hunched body posture. If you maintain a press and a mill pattern your entire life, you're essentially fighting aging your entire life. And then getting up off of the ground helps you integrate lunge patterns, plank patterns, squat patterns, and all of those can integrate into quadruped movement patterns. So instead of doing all these things separately, we're trying to pick get-ups, or the way that I do it is that I pick get-ups that have a specific intent. There are also, we never made a video on this, like a rolling hunter squat, deck squat, a rolling hunter squat, deck squat. So original version of a deck squat is put your feet all the way together, get all the way down, roll, and get back up. It's another version of a get up where you have to use the full range of motion and you don't get to use your hands. That get up leads into a stagger rolling squat, and that comes into play when you do things like cross barricades. You jump over fences. The fence height that I like, I think it's 42 inches, but I might be wrong. Somebody in the UK tell me this. If you go to London, they have all these people barriers on the edge of streets because they're trying to funnel people into the correct spot. And I hate that because I hate being told what to do. So they have these metal barriers like railings along certain streets and stuff to keep people from crossing outside of crosswalks. And they make them really high, high enough that most people will never think about getting over them. So I like to make that the height and then practice that. And then if you're doing that fast, it starts to look like parkour and it turns into a jump over. Is it a near side or an opposite side? I think it's a near side roll into a hunter's deck squat get up to move. So all these ideas are meant to mesh together. We're just working on them in specific pieces, and we're working on them with the ones that I think are the most important basic movements first so that we can add them up. We're always thinking about our human general physical preparedness, and then our human activity specific preparedness, and then our human sport specific preparedness, which I think of as movements that only humans do, like throwing pattern stuff. And then that all leads us to our mental emotional preparedness, which is the goal of almost every system of training on the planet in all of human history, whether it be yoga or kung fu or weightlifting or boxing or anything like that, or horseback riding. It's all mental emotional preparedness. All right. Let's start with questions here. Question from HK. Hi, Mark. Any thoughts on how to use kettlebells for hypertrophy? Yeah, you essentially treat them like barbell training at that point, and you can do deadlifts, deadlift swings, deadlift swing squats, and you make the weight high and you make the reps low. So you're going to be in that. Usually, I like to do all my kettlebell training in the kind of 5 rep range if I'm sticking to strength, but you can move it into that range of 10 reps. And there's a bunch of ways to do this, but it's dependent on the equipment that you have. Because in order to really work on hypertrophy, you need access to more weights. You can do it with light weights, but it gets a lot harder because you simply have less options on what you can do, and your body will, after a while, normalize and get thinner again to work with the weights you already have. If you only have, say, 2 16Ks, then hypertrophy works well for a while. You can build an excellent base, but it gets hard to work on more. That's why I advocate the competition adjustable kettlebell, because you can do a lot of hypertrophy with 2 70-pound kettlebells. If that's what you're really interested in, you can set up squat programs, and if you have weights from 12 to 32K and you have 2 of them, now you're treating it more like barbelling, where you can micro-load the weight and you can work on your fundamentals. The fun thing about kettlebells is that you can continue to do like a hypertrophy style program, but you can do it with the combination of your basic movements: deadlift, dead hang, swing clean, deadlift, hang, swing clean, squat into overhead press. The difference is you will look different doing a kettlebell hypertrophy program than you would, say, a barbell hypertrophy program, and that has to do with the rack position itself. Barbells you hold wide, so guys who do barbell hypertrophy tend to get wider at the top and they start to get more of a V taper. The same way in circus arts, trapeze artists are wider than silk or rope artists because it has to do with hand position and the way that the muscles are stressed over time. So the wider your hands are, usually the faster people get their V taper. You can do something, what I think is a really good idea. Let's make this more clear. What I think is a really good idea is doing something like double kettlebell hypertrophy, and there's tons of ways to do that. We combine all of our basics together, and then we ramp up in weight, and we stick to the weight range that we want to be in. We stick to that weight range of usually like 3 to 8 reps for a couple days a week, and then we'll do time under tension with lighter weights another couple days a week. But then you would do something with really wide grip in order to help people achieve that V taper. because starting from a closed hand rack position, you're not stressing that outer part of the shoulder. That's why kettlebell guys like me, like I don't have massive shoulders because my hands are here. Whereas with a barbell, your hands are outside. So you tend to get more of the shoulder development faster. So yeah, I have a million thoughts on hypertrophy with kettlebells. But if you're gonna do kettlebell hypertrophy and you're trying to achieve a more bodybuilding look, you are gonna have to integrate something with wide grip hands, whether it be wide grip pull-ups, or probably the easiest thing to throw in would be wide grip incline bench press as a separate sexy phase of training. You would have your kettlebells as your hypertrophy training, and they work absolutely fantastic for that, for things like the double swing, the double front squat, gorilla cleans, gorilla clean to press, because there's no way out. If you start with a lightweight and you start doing swing to squat, you will definitely add muscle to your frame. Kettlebells are perfect for a hard gainer program because there's no way out. It's very hard to mess it up. You will, if you're doing it with even half good technique, you will stress your entire body in such a way that it will encourage growth and muscular development. But you want that V taper, you're gonna have to have the wide hands at some point in there. And that's usually accomplished with some either machine, hammer strength machines with wide grip, or barbell if you're still trying to keep it low tech and affordable to do in a small space. Cheers from India. Scott Burkhart did hard. I'm not sure how to pronounce, add the T into the end of that. Thank you, sir. Cheers from, Indiana. Indiana, not India. Can't read. What muscles does Mace 360 work the most? How is it compared to kettlebell swing? Mace 360 works most the muscles of your trunk and core. It's really an ab exercise that is connected to your body through your arms. So the core of your body, think everything from, say, rib cage down to below the line of your hips, down to underneath your glutes. So that's what I consider to be the core. 6 sides of the core. There's a box in the center of your body, your abdominal wall, your back, the sides of your body, and then your diaphragm and your pelvic floor. That box is getting worked like mad with that, but then that box sits on top of the hips, which move and twist as you're doing 360s. So I think of 360s really as a core training exercise where your spine is rotating about the vertical axis, and then your hips are also doing this the entire time. Most people look at it and they think it's an arm exercise, but your arms are really just connecting to your body. But you can get pretty jacked arms just on accident doing 360s because your arms are under tension the entire time. In the order position, you're doing a bicep catch. You're at 90 degrees with your bicep. Your arm is all activated. When it goes behind you, your tricep is all activated. So you're going bicep, tricep, bicep, tricep, bicep, tricep for every single rep that you do. And then when you catch, you're getting both the front and the back. You're getting this pec stabilizer, and you're getting the muscles in the back of your body here. So you can usually pick a kettlebeller, or you can pick a club guy out of a crowd because he's got this muscle that sticks out, which is different than most people who do other types of weightlifting. And that muscle is just like a little, what do you say, tennis ball or baseball back there, usually sticking out of the back of their body because it's a stabilizer muscle that you use in every rep of something like a 360. So I think of a Mace 360 as a core exercise that's attached to the arms. But of course, the heavier it gets, the more legs it becomes because your legs are pushing up off of the ground. It's every muscle in the body. It is different than kettlebells. Kettlebells are curvilinear for the most part. You can do them as circles, of course, with inside circles, outside circles, but they are curvilinear. They move up and down, heaving and pitching, hinging at the waist. If you want to think about your fundamental kettlebell sport technique or hardstyle technique, clean and press, swing, snatch, they're curvilinear. They go up and down, but they do it on a curve. The path the kettlebell takes is a curve. It is a curve to get to the top of a line. Whereas something like a Mace 360 is a pure circle. And so instead of being curvilinear moving, heaving up and down and pitching forward and back from the hips, it is yawing. It's entirely different fields of movement. So if you were, let's go take it back to this idea of kettlebell hypertrophy. You could do your double kettlebell program for the most part. I encourage people usually to do a lot of single kettlebell to get to the point where that won't kill them. Because with single kettlebell, you're making sure the left side of your spine and the right side of your spine are equally strong, so that when you go to double kettlebell, because they move independently and they swing, you're not twisting your body under load and end up hurting yourself or your lower back or something. And then you do your hypertrophy program, but then you would add in something like Mace 360s, which would be all yawing. Now we're building just a pure Conan hypertrophy program. I think that Mace heavy club 360s or shield casts are a little bit better for mass development than something like a Mace 360, because you can catch more weight because the lever is shorter in a club. You know, doing a 360 with a 50-pound club is manageable because the lever is fairly short. Trying to do that with a mace gets really hard really fast. And instead of people's arms getting bigger, their trunk tends to get bigger because they're stabilizing way more leverage load. So yeah, think Mace 360 is working mostly core, but your arms and then your everything else. The only thing you're not doing is lifting up your shoulder to the side, so you're not going to get peaky shoulders or whatever. Hello from Northwest England. Northwest England. On the Glasgow side, south of that. Was that called Lake Country? I'm not sure. Can't remember. Frank asked the Krav Get Up question. Yeah, rewatch it later. Krav Get Up, moving back as you get up with all your weapons pointed forward. Judo Get Up, getting up with 2 feet flat on the ground without advancing or retreating. When was that nutrition video coming out? I wrote a bunch of it the other day, and I tried to make a video, but I couldn't make it less than 30 minutes. I'm trying to figure out what's the most important part to talk about in nutrition. You guys tell me. I started with a whole analysis of how many calories are in a pound of body fat, and I just did like a giant math equation on the board. And then I figured out that maybe nobody cares about actually doing that. So it's about 4,000 calories should be in a pure pound of body fat. And so to do that, we calculated 9 calories per gram of fat. And then we took a pound, 16 ounces, and we converted it into grams, which is like, can't remember, 340, 350, or 390 something, I can't remember. And then we multiplied it by 9, and you get about 4,000, which should be the theoretical amount of calories per body fat. But then in body fat, it's not just pure fat. There's actual other fluids and things in there in order to have it inside of your body. So the generally accepted number has been 3,500 calories, and you'll see that quoted almost everywhere per pound of body fat, not pure fat, body fat, fat inside the body, which is the distinction. And then I want to just talk about nutrition in that way, from that thing. If people are looking for the idea of weight loss, then we made a video yesterday where we did a program analysis for a guy named Frank, and he knew exactly how many calories he was burning a day at work. So people who are looking for something like weight loss in nutrition, we would like to get people to start wearing something trackable, because it is easier with more data, even if the data is not perfectly accurate. And people wear a watch for X number of days in a row, even if it doesn't track their heart rate very well during workouts. So they have a general idea of how many calories that they are burning per day, and then we try to eat 500 calories less of that per day. So 3,500 calories per pound of body fat. 3,500 divided by 7 is 500. So 500 calories a day is what we're looking for in a deficit So the amount of work you're doing according to your watch, and then the amount of food you are eating. So we want those to be 500 calories different so that people will start losing about a pound a week. But quality of food does matter quite a bit. For a long time, there was this idea that 1,000 calories of sugar was the same as 1,000 calories of steak, and that is just not true. That was an idea that I think kind of came after World War II. And that was one of the things that led to like the creation of junk food, I think, in the modern world, where World War II, more people died of starvation than they did of actual combat, especially in Europe. And the United States did a bunch of studies on how many calories people could eat a day before they would lose function and go crazy. And for most people, it was about 1,200 before they started dreaming of eating other people inside the study, which was horrifying. So that's where we got like a baseline of 2,000 calories per day. There was a bunch of weird science that went on in World War II where they were trying to figure this stuff out. Like, remember, we didn't even know how much blood was in the body until World War II. It was just blood came out, and they did a bunch of horrifying experiments where they would bleed people every day to try to figure out how much blood was inside the body, not realizing that the body made more blood every day. They were just bleeding people alive, all kinds of weird stuff. But we got these numbers on like how many calories people should eat a day. And that, we didn't care how they got the calories. We didn't have that great understanding of food yet. We were like right in that time period before World War II, we got a bunch of stuff that made nutrition better all over the world for the first time ever. Things like Spam, which people make fun of all the time, which I absolutely love, because you were taking the side products of other butchering processes and canning it up and making canned meat for the first time ever in all of human history, which drastically improved, like, say, the America's ability to win World War II. And this goes to how many calories we were feeding soldiers during that time. After all these studies, they figured out that they fed American soldiers about 4,500 calories a day. The Germans fed 3,500 calories a day, which is a pretty big difference. And the Russians fed 2,000 calories a day, or that was the idea. And you'll notice the Russians starved. The Germans did pretty good, but the Americans did better than everybody else, and just maintaining, what did they call that back then? It wasn't called combat readiness back then, but like effectiveness or whatever. And so they had all these new canning processes that they invented before World War II and during World War II in order to keep food on the shelf so that food didn't rot, so it didn't go bad, so that people wouldn't starve. And then that kind of held over during the Cold War, and we got some stuff, I think in the 60s, it was the Farm Act, where the government started paying people to grow more soy and more corn because we just wanted a lot of food. And then they paid food scientists grants in order to figure out how to take those things that we could grow a lot of and put it into food that would be shelf stable for the greatest period of time in case we got into a nuclear war. And so they on accident created junk food because they wanted food that would sit on the shelf for 20 years. And they were pushing this idea that food quality did not matter, that you just needed calories to stay alive, which is true. 4,500 calories of junk food will keep you alive during a nuclear war. It just won't make you happy or healthy. So what we know now about nutrition is all this stuff, like how many calories do we need to have a deficit of if we want to, or a positive of if we want to have different types of body change. We have the ability with wearable devices in order to track that data so that we have something predictable. And since the 80s, we've started to figure out that maybe all that shelf-stable food should not be a primary food source because it has a bunch of unintended consequences on the human body. Like eating 4,500 calories a day of mac and cheese is not the same as eating 4,500 calories a day of steak and vegetables. There are a bunch of things we can talk about in diet, and I just don't know how people want me to talk about it. I'm more of an omnivore. I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere in the 80s, so we ate a lot of shelf-stable, cheap-ass food, which was not good for us in the long run, and you'll still see the remnants of it in my body. But Now we know that there's a difference in the quality of food. I recommend people lean towards red meat and vegetables as primary food sources when you're at home, because when you're outside of the home, you're not going to have control over that. This was a method that I started back in Hollywood, where you would eat, red meat as much as you could get, or by calorie count, you would eat red meat and you would eat vegetables and butter to make the vegetables taste good. Because you had to go out a bunch to talk to clients and travel around and meet for drinks and go to coffee shops. And when you went out there, you got all the other stuff in your diet that you were trying to avoid at home. So that's one of the ways that I talk about nutrition, is to try to encourage people to have simpler foods at home, because we all currently live in the modern world. Is that a horse or is that oh, it's a hay trailer. We all have to do things in the modern world, and that stuff usually involves food. So simple food at home, and then you're going to have much less control over your food out and about in the world. And that's, how do you guys want me to talk about the idea of nutrition? Because there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. I would like to make cooking videos. I just don't have a sexy kitchen to make it in. I wanted to go to Alaska and do a bunch of outdoor cooking videos with my friend, but she's in Canada across the border, and I don't think they're going to let her cross the border, or me cross the border to her. So I don't know if we have to maybe push off that idea or not. She's a First Nations, and she does all kinds of badass outdoor cooking all the time. She's always sending me videos of it. And that's what I like to think of as good nutrition. Hey, Zach. Adrian G. Burgos. Hi, Mark. When doing mills, I have a problem to differentiate shield cast that 180 pullover. Any advice? Yes. Shield cast, point your feet straight ahead, end and begin with your body pointed straight ahead, and go past your opposite ear. Shield cast, opposite ear, and you get that big swing. It's the easiest version of the behind the head swing to learn. 180 pullover, point 2 feet straight ahead. Rotate your upper body 90 degrees, and that is your starting point. Pass behind the head, rotate, pull over. So you are rotating 180 degrees. So if you need to, put something on the wall on either side of you and look at it every time. But make sure that they're 180 degrees, a straight line apart from each other, and that you are 90 degrees to each of them. When people have trouble with the 180 alternating pullover, it's because they're picking up their feet. And they are not sitting down and back in their hip. They're picking up their rear foot and they're shifting probably to stand in their lead leg, or the leg side that they're catching on. And then their feet are shifting. Their heel is doing this or something. And then it's changing their upper body direction. The point of the 180 alternating pullover is that people are learning to emphasize the 90-degree rotation of their upper body in relation to their feet. If their feet move, it's not a 180 pullover anymore. It's something else. It's a foot moving throwing pattern, which is cool, which is awesome. But most people need to work with their feet solid first so they can make sure they're rotating equally both directions. If people are doing the foot movement version, which I've been seeing all over Instagram lately, without understanding the basic footwork thing, then they can mess up their ankles or their knees, or they're going to have a slight problem somewhere when they try to go up in weight with some of the more basic stuff. So yeah. Shield cast, body pointed generally straight ahead. When you start, shoulder dips underneath the hand, go past the opposite ear, rotate and pull. 180 pullover, start 90 degrees from center, end up 90 degrees from center, which is 180 degrees. Do not move your feet. If you move your feet, it's not the same thing anymore. Fort Fun, which is Fort Wayne. That's a hilarious name. That's funny. Fort Wayne. Can you use a sludge hammer as a mace? Jacob Barron, 1202. You can. You can do anything you want, guys. It's not going to work out great if you're trying to do hand release stuff, because the wood handle is not heavy enough to slow down the head of the sledgehammer. The heavier the sledgehammer on a wood handle, the faster it's going to rotate. If you're trying to do full release or flips or sword cuts or anything like that, it's dicey. It's dicey. If you're just going to stick to 360s, then sure, go for it. If you're trying to do like Mace Flow, probably not the best plan. Spend $30 and get a 10-pound mace. At this point, maces are as cheap or cheaper than the majority of sledgehammers, especially the ones with the fiberglass handles. I saw one the other day, it was like $45. Blew my mind. How to progress in kettlebell weights if you have 12, 16, and 24. I mean, I think we made like 1,000 videos about that. Yoser G. Yeah, you would do a heavy light cycle and you would build up with your 12K for a specific exercise, and then you would do your 16K and you would do the math to make the 16K at or below the work that you did with the 12K, and you would alternate back and forth. And then once you got your 16K up to whatever double what it initially was, then you would try to put in the 24K and you do the math again. You're gonna have to do math if you wanna do that. Totally fine. That's how we all did it for years. I'm nerdier about the math than everybody else, but yeah. Any plans on doing a pure double kettlebell hypertrophy program? Yes, it's on the list. There are 15 programs on the list. The problem is my ability to get it shot and then get it edited and then get it out. But yes, it's already written. I can write that program blindfolded. I think I wrote like 9 levels of it or something in a notebook. The problem is I write them and I put them in a notebook and then I lose the notebook and then I just rewrite them over again. But yeah, I would love to do the double program. I don't really know the best way to do it. Do I just write a double kettlebell program, but throw in the things like the club that I think should be in there as well? Or should I just leave it as a pure double kettlebell hypertrophy program? You can definitely do that. It's not limiting in any way. There's still an insane amount of stuff to do. My problem is always limiting myself down. So you guys tell me if I should leave it as a double kettlebell hypertrophy program or if I should sexy it up with Mace and stuff like that. Maybe I'll limit it just because it's easier for people to understand and it requires less money and equipment. Seeing as how that's kind of my goal in training, I should probably just do it that way. Scott says the wind isn't bad. Jacob Barron, he has one 16 kilogram kettlebell. How does he milk it as much as possible? There's an infinite amount of stuff you can do with a 16. You would start with your swings, you would do your clean and press, you would run a volume cycle, you do your deck squats, you do your single arm front squats, you do your snatch program, and you would do a volume cycle followed by a density cycle, and then you would start doing time under tension, and then you're going to start adding time under tension to that 16K forever. And then you get to the point where you can hold that 16K without putting it down for 30 to 60 minutes. And there's an infinite number of ways you can do that. It's just going to suck because you only have a 16K. It's always going to feel heavy. If you had any other bell that was heavier, it would make that 16K feel lighter to your brain, and then you would be more likely to accomplish the tasks. But yeah, you can just learn to not put the bell down and then add up in an infinite number of ways how to do that. One of my favorite ones is learn to do something for a minute of cleans, a minute of cleans, a minute of clean and press, a minute of clean and press, a minute of step back lunges, a minute of step back lunges, a minute of goblet step back lunges on each side, a minute of clean, step back, overhead press, side press, step back lunges. And you could just add up and in an hour, you would get 30 movements, 30 levels of complexity. Do them in families. You can come up with an infinite number of ways to do that. And then there's the truly terrible ones where you start mixing matching things, and you would do like, I don't know, let's say a Fibonacci descending sequence with a 16K where you would do like 21 swings on each side, then 21 clean and press on each side, then 21 squats on each side, and then you would drop it. And what's Fibonacci? Is it 21, 15, 8, 5, 3? Yeah, that's just mean. That's mean. That's actually an idea. It's a program. I wrote a bunch of those for upcoming workout of the weeks. But yeah, you can stretch out a 16K forever. You add complexity if you don't have more weight, and then you add time, and there's an infinite number of ways to do that. And we've got some weird commenters, spam commenters. Sorry, guys. TikTok meals idea, 2 to 3 minute how-tos. Not a bad idea. Best idea for vestibular eye brain damage that leads to left, right imbalance and can't afford PT. Yes, literally everything I talk about, all single arm stuff. Start with your single arm complexity. You're going to have to start low. If you can't afford PT, then you're going to have to move slow and focus on fixation, focus on your basic kettlebell 6, then do like the intro to clubbing program with a light club. Then you're going to have the static foot version of single arm heavy club swinging. And seeing as how PT is, $150 to $200 per hour, and 2 hours of PT would make up, you'd be able to get a competition adjustable kettlebell at $250 to $300 for 2 sessions of PT. And then you would order a 8X club and get it on order, because you can start at 3.5 pounds. And then you're going to run all your single arm basics rotating across the center line. One of the main things that people do for brain damage is rotate across the center line. There's a whole style of training called brain gym. My friend Tara Scott's very, very good at it. And her coach, Ro Cannon, who's an old famous coach in California. And brain gym is all about crossing the center line and adding complexity, crossing the center line in front of the body, crossing the center line behind the body, which is all your club stuff, which leads towards mills. They were just working, Tara and Rokan, I believe, were just working with somebody who'd had a very traumatic brain injury from a cycling injury in LA, and massive benefit by crossing the center line. And then you would move to stagger step. You would repeat all of that stuff again with light weights, with ipsa and contra. Ipsa being same side, same hand, contra being opposite leg, opposite hand, compromise stance, repeat all the training again, crossing the center line equally both number of ways. And then you would start adding something like an eye patch, I believe. And then it starts to turn into like Z health stuff. And then you would repeat all those ideas again. And then you would put it on incline blocks, and then you would put it on wobble boards. There's a 5-year program done right there. And you will need to be doing something that's 5% different every day, but you have to work on your basics forever for something like stuff like that. And this is stuff that goes it's outside of the realm of PT, beyond PT. The only people who would tell you this stuff would be like Z health practitioners. There's a whole series of neurological drills. I don't know if anybody's noticed this. A bunch of people have, like Frank and Red Forest Chinese Boxing. Most of the stuff I do is actually neurological rehab hidden inside of fitness training, because neurological rehab is neurological prehab for most people in the modern world. Most people in the modern world need some type of neurological prehab in their daily life because of the limited space in the world that we live in. People in the modern world are victims of the success of our civilization in the modern world, and it prevents our brain from doing a lot of the stuff that it should do. You'll notice I talk about cross-body stabilization a lot. The single arm clubbing is just massive, balancing both sides of the body, and then adjustable weights, which allow people to start at a low enough weight that they can accumulate enough reps to remap their brain, and then crossing the center line with static feet first, and then stagger stance first, and then building into stepping patterns and all of that stuff. This is all brain training. You're basically doing intermediate brain training stuff just by doing anything that we do. So yes, I have a ton of stuff to say about people who have injuries like that. And you can definitely work on yourself, because physical therapists only are going to see you for like 12 sessions or whatever. You need to have a plan to deal with any injury you get yourself forever, because an injury is not solved in 12 sessions. It does not matter. It takes years to rehab from something like brain injuries, and you have to do it 5 days a week, and it has to be progressive. My mother worked with, I tell this story all the time, she worked with people with a lot of brain injuries, with handicapped kids, with spinal injuries, with autism and all this other stuff. So this is what I grew up seeing, and they did it with equestrian therapy, with riding horses, because horses can interact with people and horses can help people. Think of horses as giant dogs, like intelligence-wise, and you can have conversations with them, and you can learn to move your body in different ways. So this is the foundation of everything I do. There's 87 levels, and there's a reason for everything we do, everything all the time. But a ton of it is anti-aging and brain training, which are the same thing. And getting people back to the point where they can start to do and learn infinitely complex things like martial arts, which I talk about all the time. Things like Kali and stick fighting and sword fighting are infinitely complex martial arts. HEMA guys will hate me for saying this, but I think Kali is better for your brain than something like HEMA, historical European martial arts, because historical European martial arts tend to use one hand or one leg forward or one dominant side because they're trying to win. Kali guys are doing ambidextrous, complex movement in an infinite number of stepping patterns with both hands at the same time, which is what you need in crossing the center line, which makes it a version of brain gym all on its own. There's some super cool stepping stuff you can do with Kali, which is a little bit easier than something like Jingyi. So follow me on this. This is a deep nerd super training idea, and as soon as I get a nice ranch with a forest, I'm gonna put up 50 of these things. You would stand in the center, and then you create a training space. The first ones are like 4 pillars. They could just be a 4x4 pillar buried in the ground with a roof over it, so your training space would end up dry. And people do striking drills to the different pillars, and then you can add an infinite number of stepping patterns, and then you can name the patterns, or name the poles, pole 1, pole 2, pole 3, pole 4, and then you can name the direction of the side, and then you can have pole 1 left inside strike, pole 1 left, or that was right, inside strike, left, outside strike, and you can start to add these things up in an infinite number of ways. But then you can start to call out the name of the pole behind you, pole 1, pole 3, and you can start to learn to turn to step. And now you have direction of step, leg that you step with, attacking inside, attacking outside. There's a super cool version of this, which nobody does. I only know one guy who ever did it. And there's a Jingyi version of this. Jingyi is an internal martial art, which once again, it's a version of brain gym if you think about it in a modern context. And it's one of the 3 classic internal martial arts. The internal martial arts of China being, Tai Chi, Bagua, and Jingyi. And I think Red Forest Chinese Boxing sent me a great meme the other day about this, which are philosophically different ideas. But Tai Chi is you're a ball, and everything goes around you. Bagua is You're going to take things and spin them up. The ball will come in and it will spit it back out in a different direction. And Jingyi is your fucking chainsaw, and you cut through the other guy's ball, which I always just thought was fucking hilarious because Jingyi guys are psycho that way. They are just straight line aggressive, which is amazing. But they have this dope drill that they do where they bury 8 poles in the ground on like an octagon. So front, back, left, right, and then split the difference, right? And they have these poles and they do an infinite number of stepping patterns around these poles, and they slam into them with their body in all of these different ways. Once again, it's brain gym from 1,000 years ago, infinite complex stepping patterns. And I would love to make videos about that as soon as I get a place to put all that stuff. Because we could write an infinite number of programs that are just about that. And I would like to do that in the future when I get through all the basic programs. We'd like to do a Mace program every month where we pick a Mace pattern and then we do a neurological programming pattern for that, so people could do this one for a month and then next month there'll be a next one. And then I would like to do a stepping striking thing with all of those vertical posts. Because I am trying to trick everybody into being Batman. We're trying to do a bunch of things. We're trying to make people really good at the basics so they can have a quality of life. We're trying to do it cheaply so that people can actually afford to do it, and we want people to be able to do it wherever they're at. We want to help people prehab their brain for the future so that they can continue to learn complex skills forever. And then I want to lead those skills towards what I consider to be the most basic human athletic movement patterns, which are based on self-defense. That's nerdy. That is super nerdy series of goals. I probably shouldn't say that out loud too much. I'll scare everybody away. Nicolas Desprez. Nicolas Desprez. 20-year-old Midwest kid. What's up? I used to be you. I work long landscaping days and do my kettlebell club workouts before work. Solid idea. Being a mostly healthy young kid who works long days, are there any benefits to intermittent fasting? Yeah. You're not going to be tired at 10 a.m. I, myself, used to work the same way as you. Where you would work those summer, it's now summer, so the sun doesn't go down until 10 p.m. at night. So you work those long days where you're not done until 7 or 8. You're up at, 5:36 because you're up with the sun. You're on site because you're trying to get there before the heat. So you're probably there at 6:30 or 7. And if you're doing landscaping stuff, either you're doing it all at one spot or you're jumping a bunch of locations every day. There is a benefit to intermittent fasting. One, no sugar crash at 10 a.m. So if you wake up early and you eat food at 5 a.m., by the time it's 9:30, 10, you're super tired. I know, because I used to do this. I used to be roofing, and so you'd be on the roof by 6:30 or 7 in the morning, and you'd have that big breakfast, and then you were dead. You just wanted to die by 10, 11 a.m., and your goal was just to get to lunch. And then you got to lunch, and you ate a bunch of food, and you laid down in the grass in the shade for 30 minutes, and you just died, right? And then you got up and you worked from 12:30 to whenever wrap time was, and it changed every day, and it was truly terrible. I think that there is a massive benefit to intermittent fasting. Wake up and just drink water. Go to work. Don't drink the monsters. Don't drink the Red Bulls. Just drink the water. You're going to be so much healthier than I was. You'll get so much more out of your life. And then at noon, you get to eat a breakfast and a lunch together, which is awesome and truly joyous occasion if you've been working your ass off in the hot sun. And then make that just like, meat and hard-boiled eggs and vegetables. And don't do what I did. I was, told that bread was good for you. So we had lots of bread. And then you were tired at 2:30 in the afternoon and you wanted to die. Don't do that. Intermittent fast. Try not to have anything that first part of the day. Let your body burn fat. You'll be awake and you'll be focused when you're doing all the stuff you need to do. And then you get the joy of double eating at lunch, which is truly a pleasure of the working man. And then make all that stuff, once again, away from the carbs. Have it be the meat and the hard-boiled eggs and cold bacon and a giant bowl of vegetables and a salad covered in oil or butter, and it's badass and it tastes good. And then you get to eat all of that, and then you get to have your break. And then you're trying not to have a bunch of that sugar stuff in the middle part of your day, so that once again, you're not sugar crashing in that last half of the day when it's absolutely the hottest. God, can you tell I'm passionate about this topic? And then when you get home and you take that joyous shower where you get to wash all the dirt of the day away, and it's that nice cold shower, then you get to eat all that others, that carb stuff, because now you're just going to go to bed. So yes, intermittent fasting, 100%. For a 20-year-old, I wish somebody had told me that. It would have made my life better. When I started intermittent fasting, my quality of life skyrocketed. I started on a movie because I had done that Midwestern thing my whole life where you woke up and you ate. And I was constantly having those sugar crashes during the day where your blood sugar dropped and you get really tired twice a day, no matter what the job was. And you're falling asleep on set at 10 a.m. when you're supposed to be paying attention to somebody's about to die doing a stunt and you're too tired. And one of the stunt guys was looking at me and he was just like, dude, don't eat in the morning. He's like, no, be hungry. He's like, if you're a little bit hungry, you're going to be really focused and you're not going to fall asleep. So I started doing it on that movie a couple years ago, maybe in Scotland, on a movie in Scotland. And I worked with this same badass stunt guy on like 5 movies. And he was just, he doubled for Logan and Captain America and all these other big, doubled for Thor. And he was like, do not eat during the day. You will fall asleep. You will not be focused. And that's how you get hurt. So somebody told me that. I'm telling you, intermittent fast, definitely do it. Have a double lunch, make your life better. Wow, I talked about that way too much. Super passionate about that. Wish somebody would have told me about that. Peter Bruick, limit the program to clubs only. Are we talking about hypertrophy? We already wrote that program, guys. It's the 2-hand mill squat program. It's a hard gainer program for everything. You just have to keep taking the weight up. Once you get beyond a certain point, you can take it up and double the rest periods if you want to get really turn it into hypertrophy and turn them into 60-second breaks or 90-second breaks, 30 seconds of work, 90 seconds of break, so you can really start to jack the weight up in that. Then you can Hulk out. Get up to a 70, 80 pound club. I'm still waiting on my 70, 80 pound clubs, by the way. I can only go up to 60 right now. Yeah, clubs are easy to add muscle mass with, man. Your arms are going to get jacked. Arms, abs, glutes. Once again, you probably have to add something wide in there if you wanted to make it a club hypertrophy sexy program. Not just a hypertrophy program, a sexy hypertrophy program. Bosu ball, worth it, 100%. Buy a Bosu ball, fucking badass piece of equipment. I shouldn't swear, I'm sorry. Buy a Bosu ball, they are definitely worth it. You should definitely have one. There's a million things you can do with a Bosu ball. They're cheap. They last basically forever. And there's an infinite amount of stuff you can do with it. And you see these barbell guys get after people who have Bosu balls. And they say, just lift heavier. And that's true. You can just lift heavier if you have access to a place to lift heavier. But if you don't have access or more weights, then a Bosu ball is a fantastic idea because you can repeat lots of training with a Bosu ball and you've added complexity to the system. If you don't have more weights, add more complexity. Bosu ball, 100% worth it. I'm trying to get a sexy one for filming. I haven't done any Bosu videos, but I want the sexy one with the black base and the gray top, not the blue top, the gray top. I'm trying to maintain a color aesthetic here. Bear versus gorilla, who would win and why? Probably the bear. He's got claws. He's got giant monster claws. Yeah, bear. Bears kill things and eat them every day. Gorillas are vegans. Gorillas are terrifying to humans because they'll rip you apart, but bears are terrifying because they'll eat you alive. At what point do you transition from single arm inside outside circle and shield cast to inside outside pendulum and 180 pullover? At the end of your volume cycle, at the end of your density cycle. Easy answer. Is there a certain weight you work up to? Yeah, minimum 25 pounds for dudes. Depending on body size, could be 15, 17.5 for ladies, depending on height. Women vary so much. But dudes, you should definitely be able to do all of your single arm basics with a 25-pound club. If you haven't done that, don't start moving your feet yet. You're not ready. You need to go up. You need to be good at the basics. 25 pounds is not a heavy weight, but it is a heavy weight in club swinging. If you can't do a 25 pound for 10 sets of 10 on mill and reverse mill without putting it down, you're not there yet. You need to work. You need to make your structure better, your alignment better, your pauses better, your fixation better. You need to make sure your elbow's in the right spot. You need to make sure you're rotating enough. Yeah, definitely 25 pounds minimum. Epitrocletius since 5 years. I don't know what that is, guys. I don't know what Epicrocletius is. I'll have to look that up. Cheers, England. Graham, England. Have I been to Graham, England? Graham, England. I think I have. I think I was there. Something just happened. My screen just got dark. Did it get shady in here? And something from overtraining from climbing. Epitrocletius. Is that where you guys frag out your tendons and ligaments in your hands and your shoulders and stuff? I have seen that injury a lot with rock climbers where they get really into it and their tendons and the ligaments haven't caught up to the strength of their muscles and they end up really trashing the joints in their hands. Tiara Morris, a previous employer, provided brain and crossbody training for employees and clients, individuals with intellectual disabilities and neurological devastation. Yes, it's well understood science, brain gym, crossing center line. You'll notice people who have brain injuries tend not to cross swing their arms. They mono swing, they bear walk and do stuff like that. So anything that crosses center line, and the easiest way to do that is with heavy clubs because it requires the best structure. If people repeat the training on accident, they will accidentally get better at rotating and sitting down on their hip and all this other stuff. And then if you coach it, it gets even better than that. There are obviously much more advanced neurological training drills that people can do. There's all kinds of stuff. There's an infinite system for that, and that's Brain Gym, and Z Health does all of that. But just by doing basic crossbody single arm training, you'll do a bunch of that on accident. What's the best way to send me a program? Put it in the comments. Get to all of people's programmings. Send it to me a couple of times, like copy and paste it and put it in your notes. If I'm not near a chalkboard that day or if I have something else going on, I'm not going to get to it. People send me a lot of programs, and I wish that I could get to them all, but I can't with editing time and everything else. Like yesterday, I had to go to the hospital with a family member, so the video for yesterday didn't go up until what, 9 o'clock, 9:30 at night or something. I'm really trying to get back on a better schedule. And the internet out here is absolutely atrocious. Uploading is a nightmare. But we're trying to get better than that. I have an adventure this week. I'm going to go up to Michigan and do a little bit of dirt bike stuff. No clue what I'm doing. I'm going to take my new bike. I'm going to ride up there. I have a buddy who's going to meet me there. We're going to just anywhere. I've never ridden up there. So just getting there technically qualifies as an adventure. And then next week, I'm going to be going back out towards Los Angeles, where I will have much better internet access. And I'm going to try and snag myself a camera person so I can shoot a bunch more stuff. But we'll try to fit in program analysis when we can, but I try not to do more than once a week, just because I don't know how many people really want to watch me analyze programs forever. People would much rather learn technique stuff, I think, than that, if I can help it. Yeah, people are donating. Thanks, guys. Any good hatchet or camp axe recommendations? Oh, God, I have a million. Gosh, what's your hatchet or your camp axe for? What's the 19-inch Forester's axe I have in the back of my truck, which is just brilliant? Council Tool 19-inch Forester's axe. It's a sweet backpacking axe, truck axe. I have a great full-size axe, a Collins axe that I got in Ouray, Colorado, which is awesome. I'm an axe guy. I love axes. Favorite tomahawk of all time is the Cold Steel Rifleman's tomahawk. No, not the Rifleman's, the pipe hawk. The Rifleman's hawk is big and it's heavy. It's got a really big head on it. The Rifleman's hawk is much lighter, and then there's an even smaller one than that that's really light. I love tomahawks. Tomahawks are one of those things that I think of as building the foundation of all of human civilization. One of the first things that was traded from Europeans to First Nations people when they got here to North America was tomahawk heads. So tomahawk differs from an axe in the handle. A tomahawk has a round eye, so you can drop in any size handle and then it friction fits in. That's what we traded with Native Americans, because you could ship over a box of just heads. And then anybody could figure out how to get a handle in there. All you had to do was take a branch, trim it down, drop it in there, friction fit it, you drop it so the head seats itself down, then you sand your handle. You can replace the handle infinitely anywhere. All you have to do is keep the head. That's the difference between a tomahawk and an axe. An axe has a very specific shape, eye size, and then the handle comes in from the bottom instead of friction fitting the other way from the bottom to the top. And then it has to have wedges and all kinds of other stuff in it. So I'm a huge on axes and tomahawks. I tend to lead more towards the cheaper ones. I do have, what is the one from Sweden? I have one of those in the back of the truck as well. The wood carvers, the woodworkers 14-inch axe. Great axe. Axes are one of those things. Once again, shape and blade shape of axes has determined the course of history and civilization. And before we had the internet, each individual part of the world had their own individual like axe head shapes that were meant to do certain things. But I would say that Council Tool Forester's axe and the Cold Steel Pipe Hawk is my favorite. Pipe tomahawks, it's not actually a pipe, it's a solid, it's actually a hammer pole, but it's shaped like a pipe. There's pipe hawks are just one of those fantastic things. Throwing pattern. People laugh at me when I travel because I can't throw darts. Like I never learned to throw darts, because instead of throwing darts, we just threw axes. Where when I was a kid, we had an axe throwing tripod. We had a tripod in the back with a tree that had been cut in half, and we hung an axe from it and we painted a bullseye on it. And we would stand in the backyard and throw axes and tomahawks. And that's what we did for fun instead of throwing darts. So my friends always laugh at me when we go to a bar or whatever. They're like, let's throw darts. And I never want to do it because I'm not good at it, because I think it's stupid. I think throwing darts is one of those things that they invented after the English took away everybody's small arms and they weren't able to throw knives anymore. I think that's kind of one of those holdover things from like England. I don't know. Somebody can correct me. This one I actually don't know about, but I just think it's one of those things like butter knives. Where they ground off the tip of all the knives just to make sure people couldn't do anything. So I have a lot of opinions on axes. And being somebody who's lived off grid in my life, axes are super duper important. Axes, saws, knives are those foundational aspects of civilization. I also love like Spetsnaz Russian shovels. I've had, I don't know how many cold steel Spetsnaz shovels I've had in my life. I actually broke one after throwing it for 5 or 6 years. But it's a fixed shovel that's has a wood handle on it. It doesn't fold like a NATO or an American entrenching tool. It's a solid shovel, and you can sharpen the edge on it, and you can use it like an axe. I have them in my truck, put them on my motorcycles. If you're into gardening or anything like that, a cold steel Spetsnaz shovel it's brilliant, because you can just go out there and hack away at weeds and dig holes. Think of it as like a super spade. And you can throw it. It's super fun. So I remember going camping with a bunch of actors, and we were doing like some backcountry route in somewhere in California. I cannot remember where. It's like a 50-mile hike. And I had a cold steel shovel on there, because you should have a shovel when you're camping so you can bury fires and you can dig holes for waste and all that other stuff that you're supposed to do. And they were like, why do you have that? And I was like, oh, this. And they're like, oh, yeah, Mark used to throw those. And, you know, you get the actors and like, oh, yeah, you can throw that, right? You just turn around and throw it, stick it right in a tree. And they're like, ah, shit, yeah, you can't throw those. I love those Spetsnaz shovels. I have some of the actual Russian ones now, which you could not get, you know, until very recently in America. But I can talk about axes and tomahawks and stuff forever. In the ancient world, people used to throw like javelins, like say the Romans would throw javelins and then close with the gladius and the shield. You know, they would throw 3 and everybody would throw 3 javelins. I read that Vikings would do a very similar thing, but they would have hand axes. So think of tomahawks, 3 in the back of your belt, shield up, sword, and you would throw 3 tomahawks and then draw sword and close. So I am a huge fan of all of these things. If you're going to do any type of like off-grid stuff, an axe is key. If you're going to go truck camping, an axe is key. If you're going to go backcountry hiking, an axe is key. If you don't have an axe, buy one. If people would like recommendations, I will make videos on axes forever. I am that type of nerd. They are a foundational aspect of civilization. If you go to museums, what do you see? Axes. Lean on 8X for those super fat handles, please. Trust me, I'm leaning on them. They had to move production shops for some reason, so they got delayed, but they should be out in a month and a half. It should be August. I talked to Don last week. Yeah, so they should be out. When can you go from two-handed club belling to one-handed clubbing? Whenever you want, as long as you have the weights for it. Think if you're doing two-handed clubbing with a... I mean, I start people at the exact same time when they came into my gym, because it was the fastest possible way to make people athletic in the least amount of time. So they would do kettlebells twice a week, two-hand clubs twice a week, and single-arm club twice a week, combined with something like get-up training. If you're training somebody and they need to be athletic, fast, and they need to be able to go, like I was doing it with actors, kettlebell is your hip snap and your clean and press, basic stuff, deck squats, basic stuff. And then two-handed club, they're going to rotate better. Single arm club, they're going to be better at everything. And then you can put them into fight training as well. And then they get there. That's a very good strategy. So yeah, soon you can go into single arm clubbing whenever you want. It will make your life way better, because that weak hand will get better. Everybody thinks that because they do two hands high and two-handed club training, that weak hand is strong as their strong hand. It's not. It is not until you do single hand club. You have to do single hand club at some point. Mill squat program. Any tips or advice for adding complexity after finishing it? Yeah, get a heavier weight and do it again. Peter Brook, if you're not at 50 pounds, you're not done yet. When you get to 50 pounds, then we can add more complexity. I have a whole 7-level program, 56 moves. The program you have is 15 moves. It's coming out. It's just me editing. It's just me alone editing, guys. I do the best I can. My computer's kind of dying on me now. I think I've pushed my laptop as hard as I can. And I need to go ahead and suck it up and try to order a new laptop. It's just that with chip shortages, they were very, very hard to get. And even ordering a new laptop had like a 4-month lead time. So as soon as I can get better processing speed, we will get it done. Robert Craig. I think that's a program analysis. I can't talk about, well, maybe I will. A, push-up. 25 push-ups times 100. Is that, I don't understand that. Pull-ups times 25. Oh, 25 pull-ups. Push-ups, 100. Then clean and press, heavy. Handstand push-up, 25. Inverted row, 100. Then snatch, heavy. It's crazy. Turkish get-up and swings. All works are closed out with Mace work for 10 minutes. That's a great program. I don't know about you, but I have long arms and I can't do 25 pull-ups. I could never do 25 pull-ups. I never got beyond, say, 15. But I never really worked on pull-ups as a pure skill after a certain point because I did circus. And if you try to do that many pull-ups and do circus, you're definitely going to die. Is that pull-ups, is it 25 total? Push-ups 100 total? There's no set data there. Base of the pillar 23. Have you done any videos on lunges going over form or how to build up to doing them correctly? I feel like my hips don't seem to work right while doing them. Yes, we have some body weight. There's a static lunge video and then a step back lunge video and then a step forward lunge video. You start with static lunges where you don't move your feet because most people have one bad hip and they will be able to have one dominant leg forward and do lunges fine. And then when they change lead, if they don't move their feet, they can't hide the part of their hip that's not working in the movement. 90 degrees in the front leg, 90 degrees in the rear leg at the bottom. That sets the foot distance. Stand up until both legs are perfectly straight. Not sort of straight, perfectly straight. Activate the quads on both legs, drive the knees back. That is the top. Most people are gonna feel a stretch in their hip, especially on one side very intensely. And then you would do time under tension for that and make sure you're getting the same speed on both sides. Then you do that for a couple of months and then you start introducing kettlebells in there. Cross body stabilization from the lead leg, static lunge first, build up your lunge pattern. Then work on step back lunges because the front foot will be stable, it will be predictable, and it won't do things like collapse the arch. When you get good at the stepping pattern, then you can start stepping forward. Then you start stepping. Then I usually go to dragon step, which is step behind or step in front, which most people don't like. Most people do a lateral step first, but I find that messes up a lot of people. I feel dragon lunge is easier and more useful first. So yeah, we have videos on that. We have a ton of videos on that. Mark, Shuya 09, Shuya 009. How safe is it to continue kettlebelling if you're really overweight? I began with just the swing and working on get-ups, but I can only do properly on one side. I can swing 6 sets of 10 reps. Yes, as long as you start with a light enough weight, then you work on it. Your technique will get better as you add volume. If you're doing 6 sets of 10 reps, then you need to start adding sets. In order to accomplish that task, you might need to take your reps down. So do 7 sets of 8, 8 sets of 8. So you said 10 reps, so it's really easy to come up with 80% of that, 8 reps, or 6 reps. 6 reps, 8 reps, are 60% and 80% of 10 reps. You would do that and you would start adding volume. So that means more sets. Right now you're doing 6 sets of 10, so 6 sets of 10 is 60, so do 10 sets of 6 as your starting point, and then do 11 sets of 6, 12 sets of 6, 13 sets of 6, 14 sets of 6. Get to 20 sets of 6. On your other workout for the week, so you would do that once a week. The other one, you would do 80%. So 6 times 10, what you quoted as what you were doing is 60 reps. What's that? 7 times 8 is 56. So you would do 7 sets of 8. That would be below what you're doing now. Then you do 8 sets of 8, 9 sets of 8, 10 sets of 8. And you would build up to 20 sets of 8. And then you could start over and do sets of 7 and build up to 20 sets of 7, 20 sets of 9. One day is easy, one day is hard. The lower, the 60% day should probably be 3 or 4 workouts above the 80% day, and you build volume. If you cannot do get-ups, stop doing them and do clean and press instead. Get-ups are hard. People always say do swings and get-ups, and that's a fantastic plan if you can do get-ups already, if you can get up off of the ground. If you can't get up off of the ground, go to clean and press and start running reverse ladders. Do your clean and press and then add sets to it. Add sets to it. And then you'll do Turkish get-up breakdown activities where you build each individual part of a Turkish get-up so that you're strong enough to survive it. The goal of training is to succeed, and we can always come up with a plan to succeed. If you're not succeeding, come up with a new plan or make the movement smaller and build volume cycles of it. Get good at the individual parts and then come back and reassemble it later. Yes, you can definitely continue to train forever. You can never run into the end of that idea. And if you're overweight now, that's fine. You're gonna learn as you go. Your position will get better through experience. And then that will make you stronger. As long as you're using one kettlebell, your core is going to be learning to fire. As you go up in weight, you're going to drag more of your glutes and your hamstrings into the equation, and you're going to learn in a natural way. I do have a Turkish get-up breakdown program coming out, but that's 2 away. So next up is Krav get-up, and then it's Turkish get-up coming out. Turkish get-up program is huge, and it will solve those problems. But if you can't do Turkish get-up, do clean and press. And then do clean and press step back. Axe and hatchet sharpening. Wow, we're on axe and hatchet sharpening now. For splitting wood, I have issues getting my cheap hatchet sharp enough. Might just be the steel. Yeah, okay. So that's just a comment. Axe sharpening videos. Okay. Yes, in France they have axe throwing pubs. We have those here now too. I just don't like it as much because you got to stand on the line and you're not allowed to do fun things like turn around and throw the axe behind you. But definitely if you're going to the axe throwing pub, throw an equal number with the left and the right hand. And then throw with same side, lead leg, lead hand, which is not the way it's done, and throw opposite leg, opposite hand as well. There you go. There's 4 versions of axe throwing to throw on right there. Holy crap, somebody just gave me $100, money for new equipment. Thanks, I need it. If my family would stop trying to die, I could do a lot more stuff. But right now, they're costing me a lot of money. And things are not getting done because of that. So thank you, Mall, M-A-L, Mall, love it. Firefly joke there. What's my video editing software? I use Premiere Pro. I just don't have enough RAM. I'm running on 8 gigs of RAM. I really need 32 gigs of RAM, and I need a much larger solid state drive. I'm running into problems right now just exporting videos because I've been shooting in 4K because it was requested. But I'm still exporting in H.264. But I just don't have enough space right now. So I need to just get more SSD drives, solid state drives, and I need to run that. But I do not have the processing power to do it fast. Especially I shoot all my programs in 4K, so it can take days to export in media encoder with that. I shot a bunch of other stuff in lower quality before, and I might just start using some of that stuff. But yeah, I definitely need a new computer. The problem is the new MacBook Airs are exactly the same as the Airs from 2015. They're still 8 gigabytes, and you got to really upgrade like crazy in order to get them better. And now they don't have old USB drives on it, so a lot of your old stuff doesn't work. So now you got to re-gear everything because they're on whatever it is, Fire Stick 3 or whatever their new USB thing is. That's the only thing that's different in the whole computer. It's nothing else is different. They got a new chip, which will probably help, but not if you don't have the RAM to do it. And now they're not even calling it RAM anymore. They're calling it something else entirely. They made up a new word for RAM or some shit. I am generally annoyed because Apple used to be the easiest company to work with, and it was the easiest to understand what you were getting, and now they renamed stuff and they're changing ports and they're doing all kinds of crap. But yes, I run on Premiere Pro. I'm not the best editor in the world, but I try. We edit the programs on DaVinci because it's better for color correcting. But I can't even run DaVinci on mine. I have to stick with Premiere Pro on my little shitty laptop. And I need to upgrade desperately. So thanks everybody. I do need to upgrade like crazy. Make the axe video. People are really into this axe video idea. Maybe we should make, it's so expensive now. I wanted to make a whole series where we made axe throwing targets, but wood is so crazy expensive, I don't think anybody will do it. But basically you make a giant, because I don't have a big forest anymore with down trees, so we can't use old school. You do is you make a big target, you take 2x4s and you lay them on edge, and you glue them all together, you compress them, and then you run all thread, you drill holes through it, and you run all thread through the top and the bottom, and then you ratchet it down, and you get a big plank, but by turning it sideways, you're with the grain, and the axis will stick way better. And it will last a really long time, unlike at the axe throwing places where they just put up like planks of like 1x6 and they thrash them all the time. The goal is to not have to do that. If you have a deep target, you'll get a lot more out of it, but it just costs a lot of money. Wood is freaking expensive right now. So, Dale Childress, I see that comment and I am laughing at it, but I'm not going to talk about it. Is it more beneficial to add time with lighter weight while ramping up on kettlebell marathons, or go up in weight and keep the duration the same? Both. I know that's a super annoying answer. I made a giant grid sheet of like 12, 14, 15, 16, and I just started adding 2 minutes each time, and I built up, but I also varied between a heavy and a light day. So your light day should have substantially more time than your medium day or your heavy day. If you have adjustable competition kettlebell, then it's easy to do. But yes, you should do all of it in order to get better at marathoning. The heavier weight tricks you into thinking the lighter weight is light and your heart rate will go down. And then the lighter day, you get in those extra 10 minutes of work. So do both if you're doing kettlebell marathoning. I'm still doing my marathoning not as one exercise, although I was for a while doing just pure snatches for 30 minutes, but building up and doing an exercise for 60 seconds left, 60 seconds right, and then adding a level of complexity just as a more of a health thing, so you're not adapting to one basic exercise for that entire time. And then I went up to 90-second sets, and then I would have, this winter I'll probably go up to 2-minute sets, 2 minutes of cleans, 2 minutes of clean and jerk, and with those hand changes in the middle. I think my marathoning is going to get way better. My long cycle has gotten massively better. And I have been going up in weight with my long cycle training. When I was last out in LA, I only had access to double 24s and double 28s. So I was doing double 24s for sets of 10 inside of a minute with a 2-minute break to work on my knee strength. And I was doing double 28s and I was doing sets of 5. And I did 20 sets of 5 with the double 28s, and I took it up to double 30s. And I just did a light day workout with long cycle where I did 18 sets of 15 reps. So just shy of, what is that, 270 pounds with the double 20s. And it was awesome because, and I was doing it as sets. There was break in between those sets. But it got so much easier having used the double 28s because my form got better. That is the point of a heavy light cycle. It's to trick you into doing all the things that you don't have to do with a lightweight. When you go back to the lightweight, you're still doing the stuff you did to make the heavyweight work, and you get better. So the lightweight becomes lighter because your dynamics are more adapted to the heavyweight. 5 more minutes here. We'll be at 90 minutes. Whom do you mean when we say we? I mean me and Ralph. I have an editing guy help me out, and he's awesome and he's fantastic. But we're maxed out. I need 3 more guys to put out all the content I want, in order to do it in a timely manner. I would love to have a program coming out once a month, but we don't have the computing power or the time power to do that. But we've put out a bunch of programs now, so we're getting better at it every time. We get about 20% faster every time, I think. But eventually we'll reach an upper limit on speed on how fast we can edit and assemble things and color correct and do all of that other stuff with the number of people and the amount of computing power that we have. Mal, get a gaming laptop. I would love a gaming laptop, but I only like to run Apple because I absolutely hate running Windows. And that's just because Windows when I was a kid was a nightmare, and Apple was the first company to come out with something that was learnable and easy for people who weren't a computer science major. So I've been on the Apple train for a long time. In order for me to de-invest from Apple now, like all of my training on Premiere Pro is on Apple. I'm pretty sure it's basically the same on Windows, but my buddy runs Windows, and whenever I'm at his shop and we're doing like 3D printing stuff for special effects or something, I do not like the interaction with Windows, even though Mac is getting way, way worse because they have some Windows guy in charge over there. It's still a system where I understand it better visually, and I just don't have time to learn a new system. I do like your idea of a gaming laptop because it would have the chips fast enough to do what I need to do. But I'm also limited by internet speed. I mean, it's freaking atrocious out here. Brett Boyes, doing CrossFit at 5 a.m. That's rough. It's a rough way to start the day. And kettlebell every minute on the minute work in the evenings, about 5 days a week. Thoughts on kettlebell EMOM as a supplemental program versus primary? Great idea. Great idea. So you're getting all of your unregulated effort at CrossFit. So at CrossFit, what are you getting? You're probably getting an 8-minute warm-up, which is probably like a quadruped walking and some basic movements. Probably not enough rotation in that warm-up because there never is at CrossFit. And then you're doing your basics of Olympic lifting, which is your barbell strength training for what? 15 to 20 minutes. I would just supplement that. If I were to be writing that program, I would do it with double kettlebells, but barbell is fine. If you have access to good coaching, go for it. And then you have your WOD, your workout of the day at CrossFit. And that's different every day. So if you're doing your kettlebell EMOM at night, I think that's good because you have your sheer crazy shithouse crazy stuff in your WOD at CrossFit. And at night, you don't need it to be crazy. You're just activating your metabolism to do more skill work. I think that's an excellent idea. That's how I was doing it for a while when I was going to CrossFit Combate in Los Angeles. I was training on a movie, and there were a bunch of CrossFitters on the movie, and I didn't really understand what they were saying, so I joined CrossFit Combate, and I went there for several years, just so that I understand what their coaching philosophy is, how they're writing workouts, what they're writing workouts for, and how quickly it can be done to get benefits. The problem with CrossFit is, for the most part, it's not specific, right? So if you have a limited amount of time, then it's not specific enough to train people in a short amount of time. But if you have time, go to CrossFit. The community aspect of CrossFit is fantastic. Going to the gym is fun at CrossFit. It's fun. Everybody shows up. You know everybody's names. You make a couple of bad jokes. You make fun of somebody's new shoes. You You make fun of somebody's shorts. You all do it. The guy who's wearing the weird shorts kicks the shit out of everybody every time. And then you would do your kettlebell skill work in the evening. That is a great idea. Don't make it too high heart rate because you're already doing your high heart rate stuff at 5 a.m. Time to go? Time to go. All right. We're going to wrap this up, guys. Can I make a video about deloading weeks? Yes. I talk about deloading weeks all the time. Usually whenever you end a cycle, like at the end of a volume cycle, at the end of a density cycle, deload. We can make specific videos about that in the future. My deload weeks personally are when I travel. So I tend to travel and go places without any equipment, and I end up doing body weight for periods of time, and that ends up being my deloading time. But if you do not have a crazy training schedule, then you do need to plan in deloading into your program. If you want to send me a program, Yazan, we could talk about when deloading would fit in what you are doing. Brett Boyes, fadeaway shoes, thoughts on red circa 1920s versus green triangle top hands. I don't like red shoes, although a lot of people do. I'd say go for green. They have a slightly different toe box, foot shape, and thickness. I don't know. I have the blue 1920s on right now, I think. And I wish the toe box was a little bit wider, but they're super comfy. I love these things. All right, guys, it has been 90 minutes. Thank you so much for showing up, but I have to go and do errands. This has been Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica. Thanks for the question, guys. This is how we all learn. Show up next time. And sorry, there's flies in here. And keep sending questions. Keep thinking about training. Keep writing it down. The more questions you ask, the more I learn from answering your questions. The more we all learn from, being nerds. Let's do nerd stuff.